gentlemen, my name is Plot Armor Cards and welcome to my first ever video. Today, we're going to be doing a deck profile on
the unstoppable Exodia.
Impossible!
So as I'm sure you all know, the objective of this deck is to draw all 5 pieces of Exodia in order to win. So obviously that means the first cards that we're going to need to have in this deck are all 5 pieces of Exodia. We got a left arm, a left leg, a right arm, a right leg, and obviously Exodia, the forbidden one. So we're going to go ahead and put that to the side. And next, I like to use 3 copies of Royal Magical Library. Now this card is really good because each time you or your opponent activates a spell card, you can put 1 spell counter on this card, and then you can remove 3 spell counters in order to draw a card. Now this isn't once per turn, so every time you play spell cards, you can keep using its effect over and over. And you'll see going on in the deck that there's a lot of spell cards, so this card really takes advantage of drawing. Next, I like to use 2 copies of Card D. This one is good because you contribute this to draw 2 cards, and as you know, you got to draw as many cards as possible in this deck. Alright, last in the monsters, I like to use 3 copies of Swift Scarecrow. This card is really good because there'll be times where you don't have the ability to win right away, and so your opponent might be able to declare direct attack, and if they do, you can discard this card, you can negate their attack and end their battle phase. Up next is our spell cards. So I'm going to be that guy because I run 3 copies of Mystic Mine. Yep, I know everyone hates this card, but sometimes you need to stall in order to draw as many cards as you can to win the game. So that's why this card is very important. And in order to search that card, I run 1 copy of Terraforming and 2 copies of Demise of the Land. Next, I play 2 copies of Hand Destruction. This card's really good. Obviously, you destroy 2, draw 2. It's a very easy way to get more cards to your hand. I like to play 3 copies of Swords of Revealing Light, but I'm thinking about limiting it to 2, maybe even 1. Maybe switching it out and putting in 1 more Card D and then maybe a hand trap or something. This card is good in order to stall for 3 turns, but because it's on the field, you never know if someone can destroy it or not. And most of the time, in my experience, it doesn't last. So next, I also run 2 copies of Card Trader. Card Trader is really good because if you happen to draw a card you don't need, you can just shuffle it into the deck and draw another one. Really easy way to draw extra cards. I run 3 copies of Pot of Duality. This card is really good because not only does it let you draw a card, but it lets you search your top 3 cards in your deck and add 1 of them to your hand. So if one of your top 3 happens to be a piece of Exodia, you can just bypass everything and just add it to your hand and then shuffle. And these next cards are 1-ups, so I play 1 of Upstart Goblin. I believe it's limited to 1. So you get to draw 1 card and your opponent gains 1,000 life points. Next, I play 1 copy of One Day of Peace. I believe this is also limited to 1. Each player draws 1 card, and neither player takes damage until the end of the opponent's next turn. This one is also really, really important because not only does it let you draw a card, but you take no damage. So next, I play 1 copy of Magical Mallet. This lets me shuffle any amount of cards from my hand into my deck and then draw the same amount of cards. Really, really good. Next, I play 1 copy of Shard of Greed. I only play 1 copy of this for the same reason I play 1 copy of Swords Revealing Light. That's because that it takes 2 turns in order for it to activate its effect, and you never know if it's going to survive that long. So that's that for the spell cards. So next are the trap cards. I like to play 2 copies of Reckless Greed. Now this card is really cool because you can draw 2 cards right away, and after that you can skip your next 2 draw phases. But if you happen to have more than 1 on the same turn, then they stack, meaning you can draw 4 cards and you only have to skip the next 2 draw phases, which is really cool. Next, I like to play 2 copies of Legacy of Yata-Garasu. There's 2 effects this card has. One of the effects is you can draw 1 card. And the second effect is if your opponent has a spirit monster on their side of the field, you can draw 2 cards. So there's not much of a chance they're going to have a spirit monster on their side of the field, so we just use the one to draw 1 card. But it's a bonus if they have a spirit monster on the field. And last but not least, we have 3 copies of Wabuku. This card is really, really good because it makes it so your opponent cannot attack you. They can attack you, sorry. It makes it so they can't inflict damage on you and your monsters can't be destroyed. So it's just another way to stall out until you can draw your cards. And there we have it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to my first ever deck profile. If you have any suggestions for deck profiles, please comment them down below. Oh, wow, look at the time.
It's time to do